Alright, Part 3, Environmental Protection Agency, United States, Office of Solid Waste and Emergency Response, Directive number 9610.16. Guidance on Federal Citation Enforcement, October 6, 1993, Origination Office, Oswald. And we're on page 13. Form of the citation. While each region will consider the discretion in the tailoring of the field citation program within the boundaries set forth for the guidance, the regions must either approve of the field citation form or obtain approval of the regional specific citation form of the Office of Underground Storage Tank in writing. Thereafter, first having obtained approval of the Regional Council Office for the Underground Storage Tank, to obtain an occurrence of any proposed change of both of the Office of General Counsel, Office of Enforcement. But before authorizing such a change, the approach will be to ensure that the field citations used are legally supportable, designed to accommodate the program elements described in the guidance. In addition, use the standard citation form will promote uniformity across the region issued the field citation. Field citation developed by the Office of Underground Storage Tanks is entitled with the expedite the enforcement compliance order or the settlement agreement. The two versions of the field citation form. First version was designed for use in the states not to receive the state program approval in its inspector to citate the violation of federal regulations. The second version of the form was designated to use in the states that have received the state program approval. The inspector cites for a violation of state regulations. Otherwise, two version citations instructions for use of that are identical. Because the inspectors approved state will still rely upon federal authorities for their enforcement, the reference of the federal authorities which appear with the second version still apply. A copy of each citation form of the instruction is used for attached to the end of the guidance. Regions will specify in their standing operation procedure that on the citation location with the citation where their citation form and penalty payment should be sent. Citation forms and penalties are often set in different addresses. Generally, penalties shall be sent with the same location when the enforcement of the monies are normally sent within the region. The inspector should clearly explain the distinction to the violator if the locations to which the payment and citation should be sent are not the same. Procedure for the issuing citation follow-up with an extension field citation representation issue orders upon pursuant to the RCRA 9006 for the address violation list for the RCRA 9006D. Coupled with the short form settlement agreement that each region is determined the appropriate must delegate with the individual inspector of the authority necessary to issue the citation form. Violator given the opportunity to resolve the enforcement action expeditiously by correcting the violation, sending forth the lesser penalty amount might be assessed according to the penalty policy. If the formal administrative proceeding were initiated, the lower penalty amount reflects the time and expense saved by the agency over the number they incurred in utilizing the formal enforcement method. If the violator does not accept the settlement agreement within the time provided in the sealed citation, the compliance order is automatically withdrawn. The agency policy is then pursued with the other enforcement options violations cited. Thus, the violator has two options: accept the field citation, risk more formal enforcement. Proceed with the violator refuses to accept the term of the field citation. Office is determined that a violator has not commonly complied with the terms and signed settlement agreement. Follow-up enforcement should be initiated by the EPA. Such follow-up enforcement should be stringent with the field citation settlement terms in order to achieve compliance with and ensure the integrity of the field citation program. Follow-up enforcement, particularly with is crucial with the environmental sensitive area, as in the areas are most likely to suffer severe adverse impacts of the prolonged violation, increased likelihood of release. While it is essential that the regions take steps of the conduct with the follow-up of the instruction and follow-up inspections in those cases where the violator do not settle and come into compliance, some of the programs follow-up the inspections. Also important monitoring those violators who accept the settlement, offer, pay the fine, and certify that they have achieved compliance. The regions should institute with the follow-up inspection as a subset of the facility of the reported return of compliance results for field citation as appropriate to ensure that the owners and operators take compliance with the actions that claim to be taken. In addition, these inspections usually determined with a compliance action completed within 30-day period. Without proper follow-up, the region cannot be sure that the field citation program is achieving its goal of ensuring the compliance with the cost-effective means. They might consider a 30-day extension of the 30-day period provided for the pay to fine and correct the violations where appropriate. They should condition the grant with a 30-day extension on the following. The owner and operator of the formal request for the extension. 2, the owner operator demonstrated that there are factors beyond the control of the owner and operator to necessitate an extension. 3, the region believes that the compliance will be achieved within the period of extension. The circumstance justifies the extension, but typically involve unusual difficulties obtaining the parts and securing scheduling contractors to install equipment within the initial 30-day period, delay within securing loan approval of the financial repairs, merely neglecting to seek an expert assistance of their equipment in a timely fashion that should not itself justify an extension. Regions of the document, reason for granting an extension in the file. In certain circumstances of the region may also consider the 30-day extension for the case of the force of the majeure event. For example, the force majeure for the purposes of the guidance is defined as an event rising cause that beyond the control of the owner and operator of the entitled entity controlled by the owner and operator include, but not limited to the owner and operator of contractors, subcontractors that delays or prevents the performance obligation under the field citation in spite of the owner and operator's best efforts to fulfill the obligation. The owner and operator's best efforts to fulfill the obligation include using best efforts to anticipate with the potential force of the major event, best efforts to address the effects of any of the potential major event. 1 is as it is occurring to the following force of major event, so the delay minimized with the great extensible possible. Example, the force majeure then include extreme weather conditions rendering scheduled excavation, tanking, and pipes impossible in an act of God, such as flooding, earthquake, disrupt normal commerce. The events for the not constituting force majeure include, but not limited to, the financial inability to perform any actions required with the field citation, unanticipated increased costs or expenses associated with the implementation field citation. The owner and operator should nevertheless provide written justifications like an extension, and region should document in the reason for the granting the extension of the file. Regional standard operating procedure. Alright, each region should develop the standard operating procedure for the use of the field citation. Standard operating procedure generally should include the information for the training is required for the inspector, what procedure required for the issuing of the citation, conducting the following activities, how to handle the request for the extension, what steps to follow with the term of the field citation are met or not met. Training requirements are included with the list required with the advisable course for to be completed by each of the inspector prior to the certification, providing guidelines for the determining violation penalty. Standard operating procedures shall include a list of citable violations. Their associated penalty of the region must also be attached to the list of the verbatim. If the region using field citation is in an improved state, the region must include the standard operating procedure list for the state of violation penalties corresponding for attached list of field violation penalty amounts of the eligible field citation procedures. Issuing citation file should explain what information the inspector needs to convey to the owner and operator with step forth and steps of the file for the issuing of the citation through settlement and case closure. The standard operating procedure should also indicate the criteria considered within determining 30 days. Extension will be granted for paying or the fine and or coming into compliance. Separate criteria determining of additional extension for a period to be determined by the region under unusual circumstances justified. Finally, standard operating procedures should indicate what steps, if any, should be completed before initiation of standard enforcement procedures when the terms of field citation are not met. A number of additional topics may be included with the regional standard operating procedure, regional caps on maximum number of citable violations, penalty amount, procedure for the setting up and maintaining the file system, policies, interaction, other government agencies, procedure for the targeting, notifying, the entering facility types of the document, identification, and handling requirement of the background information. Is up to the region to decide what to include with the standard operation procedure. The goal should be into the sufficient information guidance to allow effective, legally dispensable implementation of the program according to the requirements outlined in this guidance. Issuance of field citation hazardous substance tanks. Issuing the federal field citations appropriate response violation include the hazardous substance underground storage tank systems as long as violation are good to address the field citation petroleum underground storage system site. Field citations may be issued such violations as certain conditions are met specifically with the field facility with the underground storage tank system is located should have no more than 12 tanks. Total hazardous substance underground storage tank capacity facility should be less than 40,000 gallons. If the site exceeds either of the recommended threshold, more formal enforcement methods should be selected with the two thresholds reflect with the greater damage of the human health and environmental potentially posed by the violation with that increased likelihood relief of the hazardous substance tank. Issuing field citation Indian lands. In region which were the issue field citation are against tribally owned with the operated facility with the coordinated with the junior legal advisor of the Office of Federal Activities, Office of Enforcement. Before taking action, senior advisor considered policy management issues, legal issues, and consultation with the Office of General Counsel will be responsible for coordinating headquarters, regional review, proposed enforcements, and Issuing field citation federal facilities reserved hearing requirements. Subtitle 1 of the RCRA will provide for the opportunity hearing when the order is issued. The hearing of the process for the outline in Part 22 of the described above. The field citation is designed and compliant with the order and short form settlement agreement. The field citation compliance order of the non-adjunctionary proceeding with Title 40 Part 22 of the Code Federal Regulation violator has not hearing in Part 2022 cited since the procedures have not been invoked with the issuance of the field citation violators shall the term of the settlement of the expressly waived through rights of public hearing in 9006 RCRA. If the violator does not accept the settlement offered with the compliance order is withdrawn, region initiating administrative actions against violators shall follow the Part 22 procedures. If any of the violator foregoes the settlement offered through field citation process, the federal procedure guidance of the Oswald Directive 961011, the underground storage tank LU underground storage tank enforcement procedure guidance manual describing appropriate procedure for the detailed judicial enforcement may also be appropriate in certain instances in which the region shall file with appropriate referral procedures and judicial action. Outreach. Regions are encouraged to publicize the field citation program while they are still in the development stage, as well as the actual being issued citation. Important to inform the members of the regulated community, as well as the public, that programs are being developed so that they know what to expect. Publicized violations addressing using citation, or to demonstrate that the program isn't being actively implemented. Variety of methods can be employed to publicize the program, include public meetings, cooperation, trade association, press release, radio, television announcement, written outreach, materials. Alright, developing state field citation programs. The Office of Underground Storage Tank ultimately to see the state and local governments develop the authorities' capabilities needed to implement their own underground storage tank enforcement programs as a way to help realize the goal of the Office of the Underground Storage Tank that is working with the region with the federal field citation, demonstrated the success, expedited enforcement approach of the state's federal field citation are therefore interim step to be used primarily until the state enforcement programs fully develop the federal field citation represents the low-cost method of maintaining field presence in the state, while their own field presence with improving the state capability with the training and state inspector through joint inspector. All regions shall develop and capable issue federal field citation and usually work with the states and streamline state enforcement process, which may include the developing state and local field citation programs. Helping the state develop their own field citation program raises the number of the question. For example, the region with the will be needed to determine the mechanics of the issuing the field citation in states that have received state program approval. When conducting enforcement activities approved state of the federal office officials may rely on federal statutory authority, but enforce the state regulatory requirements. Therefore, federal inspectors are approved that the states will need to use the model situation office underground storage tank as developed for use and approved with the state of the region. Also need the amendment of their standard operating procedures include with the citable violations and providing the terms of each state with the regulatory requirements. Purpose and use of this guidance. The guidance is intended to improve the overall direction established regional field citation programs. After the judge for the role of the guidance is enunciated, the general principles shall underlie this appropriately designed field citation program. Further details not contained in the guidance will be developed, transmitted to the program staff with the subsequent training or guidance. The guidance internal procedure for the implementation intended solely with the guidance for employees of U.S. Environmental Protection Agency that do not constitute the rulemaking. The final agency for the body. The agency may not rely on creating right or benefits substantive of the procedural enforceable law or inequity by any person. Agency may take any action variancy with a memorandum of the internal implement procedures. Alright, then it shows selected violation of the Federal Underground Storage Tank Regulations, Subpart B, using system design, construction, installation, notification, 280, 20 performance standards of the new underground storage tank, and it shows installation properly constructed fiberglass reinforced tank, $300. Installation properly designed construction metal tank that fails to meet corrosion protections, $300. Installing metal tank with unsuitable dielectrical coating, $150. Installation improperly designed cathodic protection system metal tank, $300. Improperly installation cathodic protection system metal tank, $150. Improper operation maintenance tank cathodic protection, $150. Installation properly controlled steel fiberglass reinforced plastic tank, $300. Installed improperly constructed fiberglass reinforced plastic piping, $300. Failed to provide cathodic protection for metal piping, $300. Installing piping undesirable dielectrical coating, $150. Installing properly designed cathodic protection metal piping, $300. Improperly installing cathodic protection system for piping, 150. Improper operation, maintenance, catalytic protection system, metal piping. Failure to use spill prevention system, overfill prevention system. 300. Install the inadequate overfill prevention equipment in the new tank. 150. Failure to install the tank in accordance with the accepted codes and standards. 150. Failure to install piping in accordance with the accepted codes and standards. 150. Failure to provide any certification underground storage tank installation. 150. And then it keeps going. And then we're going to probably put this in the book. And so that will be in the book. Alright, let's take a break, right? And then we'll come back and we'll read the subpart B violations. This is 280, subpart B. Form and standard for new underground storage systems.